Good evening. It's a little after 5 p.m. on the east coast of Florida, and this is breaking news updates. And also, I am going to warn you, there's going to be a rant here, so buckle up, folks. So first of all, we're going to start with the quote purge of last night that Trump did, where he fired inspectors general in an illegal overnight purge. Trump fired more than a dozen inspectors general late last night, and he axed a huge, significant portion, of these civil servants that are tasked with oversight of federal agents. Now, this is very similar to in law enforcement and other agencies where they have internal affairs, because you need people to kind of keep the people on track. They kind of govern and, they're supposed to be impartial, not political, that type of thing. And so these inspectors general are tasked with the independent oversight and efficiency monitoring. So also from a financial point of view, not just from misbehaviors or illegalities or things like that. And so they monitor these agencies inside the federal government. According to Politico and others, the nonpartisan, remember, they're not supposed to be on either side, bureaucrats that Trump fired work in the departments of the state, agricultural, interior, transportation, education, labor, and defense, among others. One unnamed inspector general who got the axe said it's a widespread massacre and said whoever Trump puts in now will be viewed as loyalists, and that undermines the exact entire system and what it's there for. So let's connect the dots here. Why would he want this to happen unless he and his administration are going to be doing things that you wouldn't want oversight by inspectors general? Now, the tricky part here is that federal law requires advance notice of 30 days to Congress, and I believe also to the Senate, for any such removal. These inspectors general are put in by presidents. They can only be removed with a 30-day notice ahead of the removal, and they have to specifically list the reasons why. That did not happen here. And I believe this is supposed to go to Congress and to the Senate. Trump did not meet that requirement, and Chuck Grassley of Iowa told the federal employee trade publication, Government Executive, that the Senate was not notified. And he said, quote, "I'd like further explanation from President Trump. The 30-day detailed notice of removal that the law demands was not provided to Congress." He also said that he worries that this move could be an early sign of a general disregard for oversight of the executive branch. And that's exactly the point here. They don't want any oversight. And again, we are just ticking off all the boxes of Project 2025, where one of them was the intention, and Trump said this out loud, of expanding the powers of the executive office. We are no longer going to have three equal branches of the government that are supposed to have checks and balance on each other. Why? Okay, come on, kids in the back, so that you don't have a dictator or a king or anything resembling that. A legal correspondent with Slate called this bone-chilling and unprecedented. He also said, quote, "It's straight out of the authoritarian's playbook. Inspectors general are a vital independent check on misconduct and abuse within the executive branch." There you go. And he went on and said Trump is ousting them so he can break the law with zero oversight. And we are seeing that Trump is even more, if that can even be said, aggressively targeting migrants in the Biden program. So not just the already, mixed households, undocumented workers, all of that, but the migrants that were in Biden's programs. And this is paving the way for more state and local help in this crackdown. And let's just take this opportunity to remind everyone that during Biden's administration, there was actually more deportations than there were in Trump's previous administration. So let's just remember that. Plus, remember, there was a bipartisan Republican and Democrat bill that was supposed to crack down on all of the issues at the border there. But no, Trump said no to that. That's because he wanted this issue to be able to have an excuse to do things like declaring a national emergency at the border and getting rid of the inspectors generals and all of these things. And so now Trump and his administration is powering ahead with the efforts to ramp this up, which is unbelievable because it's already ramped up. And he's opening up the possibility of targeting migrants who entered through Biden-era programs. And he is trying to invoke an obscure immigration statute to make it easier to deputize state and local law enforcement to arrest and detain immigrants in the U.S. illegally. So again, hear me, illegal is what I am saying. And this is because they became more emboldened. Someone said this in my comments, and it really shook me because it was such a perfect analogy. This is like when you try to break up with a narcissist or an abusive boyfriend, spouse, whatever, and then they get back with you and they are worse than ever. They're worse than ever, and it is more dangerous than ever. And that is what is happening. We broke up with Trump, legitimately. But for some reason, I guess people forgot how bad it really was. And now he is angry, just like the narcissists and the abusers are. He is angry at that previous breakup, and he is out for vengeance. On that interview that he had with Sean Hannity kept trying to get him to talk about something else. And Trump was like, no, because he still wanted to talk about the vengeance and retribution. He's telling everybody right to your faces what he is interested in, and it is not the price of eggs. So the acting Homeland Security Secretary Benjamin Hoffman said in a memo yesterday, and this was made public, that immigration officials could consider whether to strip temporary legal status from migrants who had entered through former President Joe Biden's signature parole programs. Excuse me. This memo provides guidance for the use of a fast-track deportation process that the Trump administration had reinstated earlier this week, suggesting that officers focus on migrants who failed to request asylum within a one-year deadline of arriving in the U.S. This process is known as, quote, expedited removal, and has been applied only to people apprehended within 14 days of entering the country and within 100 miles of the border under Biden. But last week, it was expanded nationwide and applied to all who entered within 2 years. And then in a separate memo, they invoked an immigration statute to make it easier to deputize U.S. state and local law enforcement to assist with immigration enforcement and detention due to a, quote, mass influx of immigrants in the U.S. illegally. Now, again, they're using things that aren't true, data that isn't true, and that is why they keep making blackouts of information available to all of us as citizens. Things like, updating the health information, all of that, it's on a pause. Again, straight out of Project 2025 and all of the Dictator's Handbook, Dictatorship for Dummies. Now, ICE made some 500 arrests on Thursday, and a third of those were people without criminal records. So for those who are like, oh, it's only the criminals. No, that's not true. And also, as we all heard about the press conference in New Jersey, where there was a U.S. citizen that was detained, who not only is a U.S. citizen, but a 21-year military veteran who had a Hispanic last name and was traumatized further, not only by his service, but by going through this. Now I want you to hear the next words by this official of the Trump administration, Baraka. He said at a press conference yesterday, quote, it's a slippery slope when we think it's okay to suspend, This is from the Democratic mayor of New Jersey, Ras Baraka. Quote, it's a slippery slope when we think it's okay to suspend the Constitution of the United States in order to make a political point or statement. Hear, hear. The New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice Executive Director Amy Torres said the ICE officers were heavily armed and, quote, terrified employees at the business. Officers banged on bathroom doors to make sure that no one was hiding inside. Go to part 2. This is super important. Please follow me over to the next page.